Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. Right now, we're going to do a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what you want me to check out, and I'll look into it. Today's selection comes at us from Damien. Says, Avatar, use your tongue. You already did an Avatar song way back in the day, but I think this one can showcase more how crazy these guys can get. Alright. I do remember this makeup. And I kind of remember that song being a bit more of a ballady, maybe just slower paced in general. So I'm looking into, I'm pretty excited about checking out the wackier side of Avatar. Let's check it out. Yeah, so those 16th notes are wild. It's interesting how bright the tone is in the guitars. There really is not a lot of low end on that aspect. What? Okay. Okay, Western, let's go for it. Yeah. I really love the way the harmonica and guitar are playing off of each other there. Good morning. I can understand it. That's interesting. What? I love the layering in the vocals there. Ooh, that bass lick. Such a wild rhythm there, having those 16th notes. I love this variation. Yeah, so the first time we just had straight eighth notes on these, and now he's putting a bit of a flair on the rhythmic elements against the straight eighths. Again, a little bit of variety on this idea we already know. We got those 3/16 notes, and we got this little chug up against what we originally had, just holding notes there. And the tone has shrunk a bit too. Alright, we got some note changes as well, providing a little bit of a drawn out melody on top of this idea. Yeah, really cool evolution of this idea that we were presented with at the very beginning of the song. Yeah, really cool. I think they're playing around with fourths in this harmony. giving it a bit of a almost like classical feel to it. Now I know the guitars are taking center stage here, but check out that bass work. Yeah, some nice rhythmic synergy there with the drums. Sludging up this section a little bit more with these bends and the crash cymbal. A little bit of call and response here. Has the snare always been turned off? I don't think so. Yeah, and drop it down, what was that, half step? Third maybe? Really interesting to hear everything come together now. We have that very iconic 16th note jaggedness in some sections of this, but it also brings a lot of these Western elements in as well, like the harmonica. What? Yeah, really cool counterpoint going on. Even if it is out of the blue. Yeah, I was gonna say, some of these releases sound weird. Yeah, there's some reversing going on with some of these. Others just have digital effects on them. Definitely elements that made it feel unnatural.
Hate your neighbor, know your enemy. Use your tongue to clean her wounds.
I could have done without those last 10 seconds, especially right in my ears. I did not need that. Oh man. A lot of really interesting stuff going on here. There's really only two ideas at play, and I think it's sort of miraculous how often and in what ways they can change up those two concepts to keep the song continuously feeling fresh for almost 10 minutes. We have the acoustic guitars in sort of that Western feel, um, with the harmonica. I don't think we ever really had drums in that section. A lot of it was more environmental stuff. I think I heard a train whistle at one point. Um, but I think that was it. Instrumental wise, was the two guitars and the harmonica during those sections, and then we have the really hard, heavy, spacious metal section with that 16th note gallop at the beginning of bar two, and it really bounces back and forth between these two, but does subtle adjustments on either of the formulas to make sure that it stands out a little bit from the previous times we have heard it. One of the ways that the heavy section does it is by incorporating more layers, incorporating vocals, incorporating vocal layers, changing up some of the musical elements. Instead of bar three being another whole note, we had a 5 note little chug going on, uh, a heavily accented chug. It wasn't just 5/16 notes. It was like it's like a 16th and an eighth and a 16th and an eighth and then a 16th to give it this sort of like jitteriness to it. And another time we incorporated vocals with uh, a very wide, almost like choir effect going on. Not a choir effect, actually a real choir. It sounded like there were a bunch of people singing. Um, and then another time we did that, but the growls had a different rhythmic element than the choir did, which was just doing straight eighth notes, whereas the harsh vocals was incorporating some sixteenths in there and creating some grace notes into syllables. It was a fantastic exercise in variation and embellishment, and basically taking just two ideas and extrapolating them out into an entire song. I will say it did not always land for me, but I appreciated what was going on, the overall intention and design, and I think that, like I said, they did a really good job at going for this specific concept, writing two riffs and seeing where it takes them. Um, I do wish there had been just a little bit more. No, I was gonna say I wish there was a little bit more lyrical melody work going on. Not necessarily the lyrics, but the vocals themselves. But I suppose it kind of acts as the grounding foundation to a lot of the more jammy solo stuff that was going on with the guitars and harmonica. It was a bit of stable ground against a myriad of other moving melody parts. So, in that sense, I suppose it works with that little bit of contrast. And I'm sure, as any time, this is just my first reaction to it. After a few times, I may feel that balance is necessary, that having a constantly varied melody line would detract from it a little bit, and that it really needs that repetitive grounding to help the song flow in some way. I don't know. As usual, these reactions are first time reactions and they are prone to change over time. One thing I do want to point out before we get into anything else is those harshes. I understood almost every word. The only time it got a bit muddy was when the choir came in, and I think that's just because there was so much going on with those syllables, that there were so many different tones and timbres and widths and all sorts of stuff going on with them, that it was just a bit much for me to pick out syllables. But yeah, when he was doing those harshes by himself, I heard every syllable. I heard every word. That is really cool. Now, unfortunately, this what's my luck? The one time that I actually had the chance to pick up all the lyrics, because there's really only five, 6 sentences to the whole song. They're just repeated quite often. I have no idea what any of it means. He says, "Good morning, rise and shine, know your enemy, hate your neighbor, and clean the wounds with your tongue." Something along those lines. I'm not really getting the concept of the song thematically and the lyrics. And I think that it causes even more confusion in me because I don't understand the themes in the music. And usually I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on with the context of the lyrics, so I might be a little off with my musical interpretation. But here I'm completely lost. I understand everything, or I hear everything, but I understand none of it, which is just, oh man, that's a wild one. Um, I don't understand what the two types of music have to do with each other. I don't understand what any of that has to do with the music and the musical themes. We have this sort of really heavy march almost, and then some bluesy western kind of town in the middle of nowhere. Doesn't have electricity yet. Couple of people on a porch playing their guitars together, and someone with their harmonica. And the two just, I'm not reconciling what these two have to do with each other, how they're working off of each other's themes, or what any of that has to do with the lyrics. I am completely lost on this one. So, if you have any information, Damien especially, you suggested this. I need some help, man. Yeah, any context, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what's going on here. With that said, let's dig into some of the things with the music that I greatly enjoyed. I already went over some of the grander themes of theme and variation. So I want to dig into some of the smaller ideas that I just really enjoyed when they popped up. And I think we'll close out the video there. So, first of all, I think it was the third time we got to that Western dual guitars. I almost want to call them banjos, but I think they were missing a little bit of the twang to be a banjo, so I'm just going to stick with guitar. They were doing what they always do, jamming along with each other, sometimes playing alongside each other, sometimes doing some counterpoint, sometimes doing some nice call and response stuff. And they started to sound weird. The tones were not matching up with what I expected. And that's when it dawned on me that it was the release. So the attacks were kind of off, but the releases were definitely off. And I started listening to the engineering on them. And that's when I realized that there was a lot of post production being done on this stuff. One of the guitars ended up having this super choppy sound, almost like every 10 milliseconds or so, it was being turned off and turned back on, or, in the DAW, it was completely deleted those 10 seconds. And it was giving this like on and off effect. Uh, a couple of them sounded like they were done in reverse. So that's some really interesting decisions there to modify that. And once again, just lines up with the idea of variation. There's only so many different things you can do to dueling guitars and a harmonica. So they went in and did some production stuff, which is very, well, it's a mix, I would say. I was going to say it's very pop. Pop is very focused on experimenting with production. Pop and hip hop and electronica. Metal tends to experiment with tone and texture. But you might have noticed a lot of modern bands, especially those that might have been doing some melodic metalcore, some post-hardcore, have lightened up and introduced some techno elements to their music. Uh, One band could be Bring Me the Horizon. I think Aviations has done this. There's just a ton of bands have gone in this direction. Unprocessed, I think, is another one where they used to be very heavy and have gone into more of a poppy electronica element. Um, so production is actually making its way. Well, let me say, experimentation and production is making its way into rock and metal stuff a lot more recently. So I can't really say it's a pop thing so much anymore. Right now it's a modern music idea to really experiment with the production and what you can do outside of your instruments. But I do appreciate that. It's something that, especially since we do look back at so much music, we check out a lot of music from past eras, something that we just don't hear too often outside of 70s prog. 70s prog did experiment a lot with production, but I think that's also just because it was the beginning of that time. We started to see a lot of new innovations in music recording and music creation, and they were finding new ways to make the sound of their music different from other people. But aside from that, it hasn't really shown itself too much in the rock and metal we've checked out over the past 2 years. So I really appreciate that aspect here, just because, at least to me, it's fairly unique. It's uh, fresh, I guess you could say. Um, and the other thing that caught me is the guitar solos. When we hit basically the dueling guitar aspect, but with electric guitars. And we had some call and response and some counterpoint there, and then eventually just some full on harmony. And I mentioned that I'm pretty sure they were working a lot of in fourths, where one instrument would be four notes above the other in the key. No, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, I guess that is right. Yeah, yeah. It's too early. My brain is not working the way it should be. Yes, we're one instrument's playing one note and the other one's playing four notes up in the key. And it creates, to me anyways, a very classical sound. One band that is very known for doing this, very popular for it, is Avenged Sevenfold, and of course they got a lot of that from Ingve Malmsteen. At least I think I can hear a very direct lineage between Ingve and older Avenged Sevenfold. Um, I don't know if they necessarily did listen to a lot of Ingve, but I hear a lot of Ingve in their playing, so I'll say that. But yeah, that fourth split between the root and the fourth above, that tends to give it a very classical feeling, and they went for that same idea here. So I'd wager they were using some fourths in that harmonization in that duet. But I absolutely love that. It's a phenomenal sound, and it pushes against a lot of. I think what I like about it so much, not just that it has a classical sound to it, but that it rubs against a lot of what metal typically utilizes, which is power chords, which is going to be your root and your fifth. And it's very stable. The fourth is a little less stable, and it provides some really nice color that just sounds really good, even when overdriven and distorted a little bit. It's just a really nice tone that I think sounds great on electric guitars. That's just a personal bias. Maybe some people don't like it, but yeah, it's a favorite of mine, I guess you could say, as far as electric guitars go. What's another? Oh, the chorus. No, the choir. The choir effect was done so well, and it kind of fits along the lines of uh, I don't know. It kind of gives me the vibe of like back in the Wild West, right? And you would have all the criminals, and they would be all chained together by the ankles, working on the railroad, or whatever work needed to be done around, and they would have these chants that they would say to help the day go by faster or whatever. That's kind of what it reminds me of. It's a lot of lower, kind of wider, gruffer voices, singing these songs together, not really aiming for a pitch, just kind of being around the same general area pitch wise. And it ties into that Western idea with the harmonica and the two acoustic guitars. And again, I have no idea what any of this has to do with the lyrics or the heavier part of the song, but I do love how this idea of like the Wild West continues to inject itself into various aspects of the song, even though I don't know how it fits in thematically. I think it's just very cool to mix that sort of Western sound with metal or whatever you want to call this. It's some subgenre of metal. Maybe it's melodic metalcore. I don't know. I'm not good with subgenres, as many of you probably know. Let's see. That might wrap this up. I do enjoy this though, and I enjoy this a lot more than the last Avatar song that we checked out. I don't know if it's just because it's wackier. I don't. I mean, it's definitely wacky. It is a strange combination, and not one that I have figured out yet. I still don't know how it ties together. So there is a little bit of wackiness to that, but I really enjoy a lot of the compositional work here. I mentioned that this is a masterclass in variation on a theme, taking a single idea and expanding upon it in several different ways in several different directions. And the cool thing is sometimes they build off of variations, sometimes they go in a completely new variation. There's a lot of creativity in a rather basic foundational idea. And I really appreciate that compositional idea and how they executed it. Now, I don't know how often Avatar does stuff like this, or how often they do stuff like their other one, or where they do stuff mixed in between, doing stuff that's more creative like this, or more straight like the other one that they did. But I'm more intrigued in Avatar now, and I don't think I heard his harsh last time. But hearing it now and actually being able to understand the words definitely makes me want to dig into them a little bit more, because I've mentioned many times that syllable enunciation and my ability to listen to lyrics is very important for my casual listening, to really get into a band and want to listen to more of them. Sometimes it's the musical creativity. There are bands that I can't understand a word of what they said. I have albums. I have no idea what they've said. I just really love the musical side of it. But there's also a lot of stuff that the lyrical side helps. And if I can't understand the lyrics, I find myself gravitating to them less often and revisiting their works less often. So, yeah, being able to understand the words here, pretty much all of them, really makes me want to dig into the rest of their works. I find it easier to just appreciate them in their totality when I can hear the lyrics rather than having to go look them up. All right, I think those are all my thoughts on Avatar's Use Your Tongue. Once again, if you know what this song is about, hit me up. There's some really cool compositional and musicianship stuff going on in here, but I have no idea how it all comes together and why it's a cohesive song. It feels random at times, but there's got to be some reason for it all. And there's not a lot of words. I don't understand why I can't put the word story together. The lyrical story together. But I feel like I'm missing something. Maybe it's a callback to another song. Maybe it's a part two or something. Maybe it's based on some fairly popular or famous words that have been said, and I don't have that context. I don't know. To me, there's just not enough words to tell the story. It seems to assume that I know something that I apparently don't. Uh, and of course, as usual, let me know if there's anything that stuck out to you that maybe I missed, or anything that you really enjoyed that maybe I didn't talk about or didn't talk about enough. go ahead and leave those comments down there. Above the comments section, you can find a description box with a link for Linktree, which is a fantastic menu to find everything related to the channel. Whether you want to join the Discord, follow me on Twitter, support me through Patreon, or even send your own special selection. All those links are in there. Above the description box, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three things. I'll be back tomorrow, as usual, at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We'll have two videos. One will be the special selection for the week, and the other one will be the themed song, which this week is Norwegian rock and metal. So we'll check out another band that originates from Norway. Until next time, remember to be critical but never cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.